Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK. Mr. Ravichandran is currently the co-chairman of Karnataka Council of Association. He was a long-time member of the Secretarial Standards Board and was a member of the core group constituted by the ICSI for formulating the new vision ICSI 2022. He has received the Man of Excellence Award from the India Achievers Forum. He has authored several books, and the latest one is The Related Party Transactions, published by LexisNexis, and also a treatise on contraventions under the Companies Act, Securities Laws, and FEMA, published by Bloomberg. And also another book on corporate social responsibility, again published by LexisNexis. He has spoken in more than 500 conferences, and he is one of the regular speakers in all our institute's programs. Now I welcome Mr. Ravichandran to share his thoughts. Now over to Mr. Ravichandran.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். Very good morning to all. Mr. Kannan, am I audible?
Yes.
You are audible, sir.
Right, sir.
You are audible.
Governance in COVID era is a very thought-provoking, timely, creative topic Mr. Kannan has chosen for the SIRC ICSI. Therefore, at the outset, I would like to state my compliments as well as congratulate the ICSI SIRC for this wonderful webinar, which is very useful for our members. All of you may be aware that I have always been of the view that as a class, members of our institute must rise up to the occasion, grow up in their stature, in their thoughts, in their actions, in their deeds, which will be only putting us in the right place. This COVID-19 era has, if not anything, definitely taught us how we will be able to look at aspects which are not, when you are busy, you are able to see. The current scenario requires us to revisit the basics of corporate governance. I was yesterday telling about the stimulus package when somebody from a newspaper, a journalist, was asking, what is this stimulus package? How is it going to deliver the goods? We may be aware that India is a country of vast resources. However, COVID has brought us back to the ground, has put us down to the earth, and has made us think how is the situation, economic situation. 3 months before, 4 months before, whether it is economists, whether it is political heads, whether it is astrologers, nobody has said the economic situation is going to be so bad and revival will require not only stimulus package but also several other things. Because globally we are witnessing hitherto unheard of, unprecedented situation. When economy is not doing well, everything takes a back seat. Economy will also take a back seat if consumption is not doing well, if consumption is not to the expected level, if consumption falls, economy falls. Economy falls, everything falls. It is in this particular situation we are talking about slowdown in economy and yet speak about governance. All of us must be aware that it is not without reason the regulations has provided us, the Companies Act, the SEBI listing regulations, whatever you say, the governance principles, the policies, all these things have brought one thing to the fore, that it is a part of, mandatory part of, essential ingredient of corporate governance, which is risk management, risk appreciation, risk assessment, risk appetite evaluation, and risk management is part of the governance program. India is a country with a 3 trillion US dollar economy. All of you must be aware, last year budget time, the government of India said that we are going to march towards 5 trillion US dollar economy, 225 lakh crores. is the size of the economy. The State Bank of India report said we may be able to see a positive growth in GDP of about 1.1%. Recently they said we may be touching 0% GDP. IMF in February said 1.9% growth in the GDP. The GDP is a measure of the entire output. The market's PMI, that is Purchasing Managers, Manufacturing Managers Index, if you see, for the first time in March end, in April, it has gone below 50. When it is pegged below 50, it is called economic contraction. It is like a containment zone. Movement is stopped. So the market PMI index says 27. You can understand the economic scenario from these figures. 32 crores of migrant workers, organized, unorganized, daily wage earners are assessed as people in need of support. People in need of support. That's why government has transferred about 16 crore people, 32,645 crores or something the government has transferred. Today we are talking about 10% GDP, 20 lakh crores of stimulus package. The stimulus package is of yesterday's time, but when the COVID-19 showed its true color, lockdown started, first lockdown, second lockdown, uncertainties, internally fear, internally we got disciplined, internally we have started thinking about is it needed, is it not needed, how much is needed, how much is not needed. This is the economic thought. In this thought, if we are as individuals going to be thinking about it, would not policy makers think, would not corporate leaders think, would not promoters and entrepreneurs think, would not board meetings think about this? Because it is the most important thing at the corporate board. One aspect we have to check is how would be the retention possible. Last year we have achieved a turnover of so much. This year will we be able to survive? Will we be able to achieve that? Whether the stimulus package is going to bring us some package, some benefit. You know that this is a time when you have to rise up to the occasion. This is a time when we have to cut cost. This is a time we have to have incisive thoughts, sharp focus on what is in front of the board of directors in today's economic scenario. All of us are aware the economic scenario has put very great difficulties to certain sectors. For example, travel and tourism is a sector which has not seen the worst of the day. Auto sector, the automotive sector was already under recession. It is not that the COVID has brought it down and COVID has deepened it. So sector wise you look at it, certain sectors have seen some improvement because of the natural connect with the present scenario like healthcare sector. At the same time we are also aware of the chinks in the healthcare infrastructure. How inadequate India is with respect to the healthcare infrastructure. What are the difficulties we are going to face? In which are the sectors our company, our board, the client's board is going to be working? What will be the scenario they will be? How they will look at governance? Is economic scenario analysis, is risk perception, risk assessment, risk appetite, risk mitigation plans a part of the economic scenario? For example, we have heard about the latest problem in the Vizag chemical plant. After it was locked down, you go and open it, something happens there. There is a blast, there is a leak. The Neyveli Lignite Corporation, there is a safety valve problem as a result of the boiler. There was a blast which has injured a lot of people. So therefore, any number of situations which we have not seen are going to be in front of the board. If you look at the organs of the government, with which we are as company secretaries very closely connected, we would have seen that the Reserve Bank of India was the first to come out with support measures. They said, okay, take 3 months moratorium. Nobody needs to pay their installments, whether it is individual or institution. Nobody needs to pay their interest, at least for 3 months. Moratorium was granted. Industry is now asking for more than 3 months, another 3 months and whatnot. However, look at the measures that have been taken. Let us try to appreciate that there have been some measures which are meaningful in nature. It may be inadequate. It may be more wanting. So today, Moratorium is a big relief because when you are sitting on the board, when you see there is no possibility of opening the factory, when you see cash bills are drying, there is no possibility of cash bills ringing, when you see money is not coming, at the same time the government says pay all your employees and workers all the salaries, everything you pay. How will the board decide things? Therefore, the first and foremost thing which the government of India has thought is, let us put some relief in the mind, relieve the board's mind from ordinary, which are things which can be postponed. You would have seen a slew of measures that has come from Reserve Bank of India. For example, the 7th June 2019 framework for stressed assets. The framework contemplated a 30-day period called review period and a 180-day period for assessment of resolution plans. And if there is no possibility, approach the NCLT under the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code. So therefore, today you see what kind of measures that have been taken. The government has said, yes, let us postpone it. Let the reference date be 29th February 2020. Postpone it by 3 months up to 31st May. And thereafter the review period or the resolution period will start. 30-day period or 180-day period will start. Moratorium, all accounts, whether it is SMA 1, SMA 2, standard, substandard, status quo will be maintained until 31st May. And thereafter, let us see, it may be improved, it may be increased, it may be extended. Similarly, look at the Securities and Exchange Board of India. SEBI also brought out lot of measures. SEBI considered each and every item. For example, board meetings. SEBI said, yes, let us postpone the board meetings or let us give relaxation up to 30th June. Video conferencing is possible. Any number of other audio visual mode is possible. So, you must be able to understand that there have been measures from the SEBI for compliances to be relaxed. Relaxation of compliances is intended not just to provide some way of relief. It is to provide the boards to focus on what are more important than these things. They have to protect their company. They have to protect the well-being of the company. They have to protect the assets of the company. Already there is a talk about impairment of assets. Already we talk about estimated credit loss. Companies, banks which have NBFCs which have funded unsecured loans, personal loans, housing loans, vehicle loans. The entire economy is suffering. Therefore, checks are bouncing. Defaults are happening. So in this scenario, we have to look at how best the boards can be relieved of the talks about compliances so that they are able to concentrate on other important things. For example, MCA. MCA came out with slew of circulars. You know about the board meetings related circulars. Amendment of the rules. Allowing board meetings through video conference. Sharing documents through online mode. Making people to take decisions. Board meetings can be held afterwards. In a particular quarter, there may not be board meeting. 120 days, the rule under 173 as well as LODR is postponed. So, board meeting level also they have given relaxation. Similarly, you know about the EGM, the 8th April, 13th April, 21st April and 5th May. They have put the companies into two buckets. Companies which are Section 108 mandatory companies. Rule 20 mandatory companies, e-voting facility mandatory companies, more than 1,000 member companies. So this is one class of company, one category of one bucket of companies. Then there is another category of companies. They have been also permitted to hold their EGMs up to 30th June, AGM throughout 2020 in the e-voting, in the VC mode, that is video conferencing mode, or other audio visual mode. What is the purpose of this? We have to think deeply about it. Today you would have said, when I talk about cost cutting, you may be looking at it as a very sensible, meaningful thought. Every board must be thinking it in their governance on a day-to-day basis, in their governance on a short-term basis, in their governance on a long-term basis. in their planning, in their project, in their estimation of the balance sheet and revenue projections, they have to think about all these things very, very carefully. If you look at the entire scenario, you will be able to understand that today we will be able to see some positive actions, economic activities happening. In the light of all these developments, in the light of the various things that are happening around, in COVID era, what is meant by governance? Does governance mean compliances only? Governance include compliances, and compliances alone is not governance. That is why we think about beyond that. We need to think about what are the various things which are necessary, how it should be done. Therefore, what I did was, I went through a presentation on the governance from the very, very accepted OECD principles of governance. Let me share to you one screen, which is a PowerPoint. Please see here a screen. Some of you must be able to see it. One of the office bearers can say yes, they are able to see the screen. Somebody can kindly tell. Is the
No, your skin is not visible yet, sir.
Is it visible?
No, it is not yet visible, sir.
One second.
I can see.
Okay. If the audience is able to see, that is sufficient.
I think, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, now it is coming up, you can see.
Yes, sir. So what I did was, I went to the basics of governance. As I told you, COVID era is an era in which you can refresh your thoughts. You can try to be of value addition to the clients or the companies in which you are working. You need to bring something to the table which makes you valuable. When we talk about cost cutting, I was mentioning a minute before, cost cutting is something which everybody will fall for it. But when you see today's news, you will get a feeling that HDB Financial Services has given notice to some 150 employees or something on a performance evaluation basis. So the same subject can be talked in a different way. When you look at that, you may be concerned about it. When you see salaries are not paid, you may be concerned about it. When you see salaries could not be paid, salaries are cut, bonuses are cut, variable pay is cut, incentives are cut, then you will see difficulty, because economy is like that. Economic activity is like that. That is why everybody is talking about MSME sector, when it is going to improve, how it can be stimulated, how capital can be infused in the stream of production for them to come up. In this particular situation is what we are supposed to be discussing about governance. And that is why I put risk as the most important factor of governance in the COVID era. You have to see the risks that are available in front of you. What is the way in which the risk can be mitigated? You would have read today about the possible collaboration between Honda and Toyota. Sorry, Maruti Suzuki and Toyota. Maruti Suzuki's Brezza platform is going to be used for manufacturing cars branded as Toyota, and it is going to be sold to you. You have a platform which is a time-tested, exemplary platform which manufactures the cars. You have a brand that can bring more cars to the road. So long as we are able to see there is a brand of Toyota, immediately you will be falling for it. This is the time when we need to look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. A SWOT analysis is, in my opinion, the most important task of the board of directors. They have to see what is going to be possible. I was talking to some of the top bankers in the country, at least about 4 or 5 people I have talked. They have told me that in most important aspect of governance is, the underlying point of governance is the true picture of governance is to see what is going to be the company, how it will function, how it will be able to sustain, whether it will be able to retain. So one person was saying if the GDP is 1, we will try for 2% growth. Next day the report from State Bank of India said GDP is 0. I was immediately thinking 2 times of 0 is also 0 only. So you have to plan at the board what is the possibility of growth and how we are going to retain the existing level of business, existing level of people. Therefore cost cutting, sacking, everything is possible, everything is going to happen. Government of India is thinking about suspension of insolvency and bankruptcy code, section 7, section 9, section 10. Let there be no new filings. What about the existing filings? What about the existing CARP? What about the existing liquidation cases? Are they going to function? Everything is under lockdown. Probably there may be a valuation which was very, very big, very flamboyant, beyond the liquidation value in February 2020. But in May 2020 or June 2020, will the valuation sustain? Will the resolution applicants be able to achieve what they had originally planned for and pegged their resolution plan value? Questions of this nature is what we are going to see in the governance at the board. What are the complementing strategies we can have? Look at the competitors and see what is the problem they have and whether we have the possibility of complementing in working, collaborating in joint venture with them. Look at the possibility of enhancing the equity. Look at the possibility of diluting the stake and bringing investors so that risk is spread. Government of India is thinking everything about it, and we are also, as a private sector in the governance, we at the board also we need to think about it. For example, institutional investors are going to be playing a big role. They have a big chunk of voting rights. That is why the governance is not about only the compliances alone. Governance is beyond. Therefore, I thought I will take you to the OECD principles. I have thought that there must be a 3-part review of our discussion. We discuss about business review. We have to discuss about governance. What is the business model? What is the risk assessment? What are the business responsibility principles? How much we can do today? For example, UP and MP has for 3 months they have postponed 3 years they have postponed all their labor laws, be it the Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Bonus Act, and whatnot. Whole of the country is looking at the industrial and labor laws to be relaxed. Prime Minister spoke in his speech about liquidity and law. Governance is nothing but a platform, a concept that makes you think what you should think at the right time. That is the quotable quote I would like to say today. Today is the time you need to think. That is why all compliances and relaxations are there. Therefore, I have put compliance review at the end. Business review is first. Governance review is first. Compliance review comes next. You would have been able to put your line of thought also in this manner in the proper places. Look at the principle. What is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, says? The corporate governance framework should protect and facilitate shareholder rights and equitable treatment of shareholders, including minority and foreign shareholders. All shareholders should be able to effectively redress for violation of their rights. Look at the MCA notifications of 8th April, 13th April, 21st April, 5th May. What is the underlying point in that? These circulars have required the first and foremost thing as sending notices to shareholders of your general body meetings. Because without notice, a general meeting is going to be a washout, it is invalid in law. And therefore, even for companies which 108 is not mandatory, the government has said 50% of the members' email addresses must be available with the company, and they must be able to represent 75% of the voting power, and then you allow the AGM. What is the reason for it? The reason is the fundamental principle of governance that requires shareholder rights and ensuring equitable treatment to all the shareholders. That is why they said if you are having this particular eligibility, 50% of email members would, the email addresses of 50% of members at least must be available, and those members must be able to represent 75% of the voting power, and then you proceed with video conferencing. So double purpose: one, protect the interests of the stakeholders; two, allow the business to happen. Let there not be any obstacles to the decision making. Let video conference be allowed. They have also brought the norm of 500 participants should be at least be there on first come first service, first come first served basis, and without prejudice to right of independent directors and other directors, as well as chairpersons of committees, as well as auditors or his representatives to attend the meeting through VC. So therefore, protecting the shareholders' interest in COVID era through even the technological resources like video conferencing or other audio visual mode is the concern of the policy makers of the country. And that is because the shareholders should have the opportunity to effectively redress. They should get equitable treatment. For example, OECD principle says shareholders should have the opportunity to participate effectively and vote in general shareholder meetings and should be informed of the rules including procedures that govern the shareholder meetings. You tell me, even in the COVID era, even in the VC meeting, has not the Government of India, Ministry of Corporate Affairs taken care by ensuring that poll must be allowed, how the voting should take place, how the attendance must be counted, quorum should be counted, how chairman should be elected, whether it is 104 applicability or 104 non-applicability or otherwise, how vote must be declared, decision must be taken, how the results must be declared, how filing must be done. So therefore, the foremost thing is opportunity for the shareholders to participate and vote is protected. Without prejudice to that, only things can happen. The shareholders must be furnished with sufficient timely information of date, location, agenda of general meetings. It is there. It has been said that you must give all this information, and if it is going through a VC process and you don't have the notices, email addresses of all the members, you are not able to send notices, make a paper publication in English as well as in the principal vernacular language in the district in which the registered office is there, 3 days before the commencement of dispatch of notice, because let the shareholders know that something is going to happen and their rights are involved. If they are careful, if they are vigilant, if they are aware, if they want to participate, they will be able to join, they will be able to receive the notices, they will be able to get their email addresses registered, and that is the reason why the government said public advertisement must be made. Shareholders should be furnished with sufficient timely information concerning date, location, agenda of general meetings done. Look at audited financial statements. In AGM's most important ordinary business is adoption of annual accounts. Forget about dividend declaration, which can be even interim dividend. Forget about auditor's appointment, which can be once in 5 years. Forget about retirement of directors by rotation, which may be in most of the companies a mere statutory formality, except in cases where they want to ease out the directors in the name of retirement of directors by rotation. Or in the case of performance evaluation, they want to review and see whether a person must be allowed to be appointed, reappointed after retirement. Generally speaking, this is the most important task. Therefore, the government has thought it fit, yes, furnish the audited financial statements 21 days in advance through email, let the shareholders know it. Put the notice of AGM as well as other things in the website. Enable the shareholders to look at and inspect the registers and records which are normally produced at the AGMs. Therefore, OECD principles of corporate governance, whatever has said in relation to these aspects, have been taken care by the government in each and every regard, because one of the principles of key corporate governance is effective shareholder participation in key corporate governance decisions is, for example, election to the board of directors should be facilitated. Therefore, fundamentally, the OECD principles, that is Organization for Economic and Cooperation and Development, Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD principles with respect to shareholder rights have been taken care. One of the ways of shareholders thing is they can enforce their rights. They must be able to initiate legal and administrative proceedings against management and board members. Yes, COVID has brought some difficulty in this respect. You know very well 230 you take schemes of arrangements, mergers, demergers, acquisitions, acquisition of minority shareholder rights, squeeze out rights. So several provisions have been, even recently they have brought the acquisition of minority shareholders rights as a very mandatory requirement of review or scrutiny and approval by tribunal. 241, 242, 243, 244 oppression mismanagement provisions. OECD principle says one of the ways in which shareholders can enforce their rights is to be able to initiate legal and administrative proceedings against the management and board members. COVID era has put difficulties in this because powers are conferred upon the National Company Law Tribunal for this purpose. Unfortunately, the tribunals are not able to go and meet. Therefore, fiduciary duties of directors have to be protected, shareholders' rights must be protected, and there may be, of course, postponement of such proceedings. But remember, the Supreme Court was the first to come out and said no limitation, all limitations postponed until the lockdown. NCLAT came and announced the extension of period for CARP on a suo motu basis. Therefore, rights are remaining, rights enforceability is little bit postponed because of the situation which is prevailing today. And tomorrow when the courts open, when the lockdown is relaxed, these rights can be exercised without any fear of any limitation coming in the way, without any fear of anybody saying that, there is a delay in your action, you should have come in advance and all. Therefore, confidence of minority investors will be enhanced when the legal system provides mechanism for minority shareholders. In our country, the legal system as it existing today, so far as corporate is concerned, we are talking about corporate governance, confidence of minority investors is always enhanced ever since, the 31st May 1991. The Companies Amendment Act 1988 was brought into force. Company Law Board was established. Cases started moving from High Court to Company Law Board. So confidence building measures, provisions to support that, mechanisms to support that, legal systems to support that, to bring lawsuits even in class action suits, our country is definitely a leader in this. We have sufficient laws to protect investors, stakeholders from all these things, whether it is oppression, whether it is mismanagement, whether it is denial of rights, refusal of inspection, whether it is class action suits, insider trading regulations or takeover. In each branch of law, there is a protection. Governance principle is thoroughly protected. Only thing, because of COVID era, there may be delay in establishment of the rights or enforcing or seeking the legal rights. Let me take you through to the next topic with respect to duties of directors. Members of the board and key executives should be required to disclose to the board whether they directly or indirectly on behalf of third parties have any material interest in any transaction. Absolutely no issue with respect to these provisions. 184 or 188 or regulation 23 of LODR, nowhere there is any dilution. All requirements with respect to disclosures have to be there. All committees, whether audit committee or nomination remuneration committee or stakeholders relationship committee, vigil mechanism, whistleblower, everything is in place. Everything is supposed to be functioning and everything is happening also. Nobody will be able to distance themselves from their duties merely because there is a lockdown, merely because there is a COVID-19 uncertainty and economic issues. There is no reduction in the compliances is the first statement I want to make. Though board meetings have been enabled through video conference and other audio visual mode. Minority shareholders protection is also, I have already said, there is a possibility they need to wait for some time and take necessary action. Even today, let me tell you, there are benches. I have been talking to the registrars of various benches. I am appearing before NCLT in several jurisdictions. If there is any urgency, if something has been done, it is important for us to immediately rush to the NCLT. E-filing is possible. You can file applications for urgent relief. Similarly, there is also a possibility that our members are supposed to check the compliances, verify all the requirements and data properly and certify. It is not expected of our members as a class to compromise in any respect and dilute the audit requirements, review requirements, verification requirements in any manner whatsoever. Then I will take you through institutional investors. Institutional investors are acting in a fiduciary capacity. They should disclose how they manage material conflicts of interest, so that may be affecting the exercise of key ownership rights. The corporate governance framework, OECD says, should require proxy advisors, analysts, brokers, rating agencies. Everybody is supposed to disclose and minimize the conflicts of interest. You must be aware about the stewardship code introduced by the Securities and Exchange Board of India. Stewardship code aims to advise the mutual funds and such institutional investors who have combined stake to work in concert, work together and announce in advance a policy, remove conflicts of interest and see how they want to work together. What is their governance mantra? What is their policy? How do they want to enforce their voting rights and bring corporate growth, corporate governance in the institutions? Institutional investors in the entities, in the companies in which they hold stake. So stewardship code is something which has come as a phenomenal guidance for the institutional investors. Some of us would have already read about it. Some of us may have to read it. Nevertheless, I want to say that is a beautiful code that has come in place. Stakeholders, including individual employees and representative bodies, they have to be allowed to freely communicate their concerns. We have the vigil mechanism, we have the whistleblower mechanism, we have the post internal complaints committee, we have the free communication in all the companies. These are all the things which will help the board of directors to shape their policy, to understand what is happening, to talk to the public authorities, to ensure that their rights are not compromised. It is necessary for all of us. When I say all of us, I am talking about everyone in the corporate governance system. Every single person must contribute their might in order to make it happen for the protecting the interests of the employees, investors, stakeholders, and everybody. General public at large. So with this, thoughts in my mind, I thought I will share the three parts of it. That is the business perspective, the business review. I have already talked about it. I want to highlight about the public liability insurance which is required to be done. Take care of that. At the same time, ensure that there are possibilities that we are facing difficult situations. We must realize, therefore, in difficult situations, you should have patience, and COVID has taught us a lot of patience. And next is governance review. When you review the governance, you must be able to understand that there is a remote governance, there is a minimum governance. Even audits are happening, secretarial audit or financial audit is happening on a remote basis. So therefore, there is always a sort of a little bit of concern about the quality. You must be assured about it. You must be asking as much questions as possible. Administer your checklist appropriately, completely, and take a decision to report it. And thereafter, in governance, I was telling you that risk assessment, risk strategies, business responsibility principles they are in the top order. They have to be given the predominance. Then comes the compliance, where you need to review. When you review that, you must be able to understand review of policies is a subject matter which is very difficult. For the reason that anything regulatory, anything legal system requires, you will be able to inform the stakeholders also. They will be able to see what is happening. They will be able to appreciate what is the status. In policies, they may not know whether this policy is completely followed. What is the status of it? Those things, there will be a gap between the board and the stakeholders. So think about all these things, and this is why I said the 3 parts review in the same order in which I have written will be the ideal governance mantra in the COVID-19 era. Thank you very much. Mr. Kannan?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful expression of the COVID situation. I have our secretary to check about. May I request to check out and give one of the members? Hello, members.
Hello.
You are all hearing me? Now we need to. We need to close the first session a little early in view of certain personal exigencies for Mr. Chandran. He will not be able to take any questions right now. However, all your questions, whatever you have shared in our website, we will try to connect it and send it to him. Whatever answers we receive, we will try to post it to you all in email. Kindly bear with us for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I request Mr. Shekhar Babu to kindly give vote of thanks to him.
Yeah. Good morning all. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion of the first ever webinar being conducted by SIRC of ICSI. Ravichandran sir, I don't know how to express our gratitude for sparing your valuable time despite a great tragedy that happened in your family a few hours back. Sir, you dealt with this subject, most complicated subject of contemporary relevance, and which is most important for the corporate world. That is the corporate governance, the phrase which centers around the vision and mission of ICSI with such a ease, so that all of us now we are in a position to help our corporates in complying with the various aspects and tackle this situation and help them in conducting their board meeting and other conferences in this pandemic situation. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Kannan, SIRC Chairman, and all our colleagues on the council for their efforts in organizing this webinar. And also, I would like to convey my thanks to Mr. Brindal Kumar, who facilitated this webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants for their response in such a short time.